While researching neo-noir films, we found that there are so many good movies out there that fit the genre. From more traditional crime thrillers, to action films, or even diving into the surreal. We wish we could include them all in this list, but if we did, this video would be way too long. So in no particular ranked order, here are a few films we recommend you should watch, mixed with some of your own selections. By the way, there will be no spoilers, at least not more than what's said in the film's descriptions. We start off our list with one of the more important early neo-noirs, Chinatown. It's a classic that has influenced many others in the genre and has one of the most famous lines in film history. The setting is very emblematic of classic noir, 1930s Los Angeles. We follow a private investigator named Jake Gittes as he makes his living exposing unfaithful spouses. His world begins to change when a woman comes into his office asking him to look into her cheating husband.
Do you know the expression, let sleeping dogs lie? You're better off not knowing.
I have to know.
At first it seems like a straightforward case, but as he pulls on a loose thread, an accumulation of lies, murder, cover-ups, deceit, corruption unravel his worldview, and drive him to keep digging until he gets to the bottom of the mystery. I know it's not a very detailed synopsis, but if you've never watched the film or had it spoiled by now, it's best to go in blind and just follow Jack Nicholson's character and enjoy the ride. Still within the realm of movies playing with the classic noir aesthetics, we find LA Confidential. Set in the 1950s, the LAPD is trying to rehabilitate their image, but certain controversies are making that difficult. We get to see the different sides of the same coin in action, as the police are investigating the mysterious murders that have taken the lives of former cops.
At least one person's dead. I stopped for coffee. The night owl's closed.
No one comes through the front door. Understand?
The good cop, Ed Exley, tries to go at it by the book, while also looking to advance his career. Bud White, the bad cop, tends to let his fists do the investigating, but he's still driven by a sense of justice. And Jack Vincennes, somewhere in between the other two but not entirely above board either. No characters are perfect, and nothing is black and white, in this fine period piece that continues the examination of justice and far-reaching corruption. Now let's change the setting a little bit, and head into the future, to an alternate LA, and follow Blade Runner Rick Deckard, as he's reluctantly commissioned to find human-like androids called replicants and destroy them.
Replicants are like any other machine. They're either a benefit or a hazard. If they're a benefit, it's not my problem.
Not only is Blade Runner a very well-made neo-noir film, but it's also a quintessential work of science fiction that paved the way for more movies that are part of the cyberpunk genre. There's mystery reflected by the oppressive atmosphere, long shafts of light beautifully maintained by a thick haze, and grimy neon-lit streets under a seemingly constant rainfall. A futuristic and yet straightforward story about a brooding hard-boiled detective meeting the femme fatale, an omen of change that leads them to an examination of what it means to be human. The sequel, Blade Runner 2049, is another entry worthy of being watched. Now let's adjust the setting once more. This time, it's the seedy underbelly of high school. In Brick, we get to observe the common conventions of film noir, such as the detective, the flashbacks, the speech pattern, and the underlying mystery, played out on screen but under the guise of a high schooler's world. If it wasn't for the young actors or the scenes at school, you'd be convinced this was a traditional detective story.
Here's the cell number.
Keep it on vibrate. Yeah. Better stop meeting me in the open, too. I'm gonna start getting visible. I need you on the underneath. Okay.
The protagonist is basically the detective. The school's VP is the ball-busting captain. The cool kids are high society folk, and the smart kid is the behind-the-scenes ally/researcher. In essence, Brendan is a loner that has just recently found his ex-girlfriend's dead body. He decides to investigate what path led to her untimely demise. His search for answers opens the door to a hidden world of crime and drugs. This film is a good example of how to play with the tropes and present it in a refreshing manner, while still keeping true to the feel of the original genre. A slick, not to be missed deadpan delight.
Morning, Mr. Ackerman.
The following movie came out recently and it wasn't on our radar until some of you recommended it. The Kid Detective. Abe Applebaum solved a case back when he was a child, and earned his town's admiration solving over 200 mysteries. But somewhere along the line, he lost his way. Now in his 30s, still working on small cases, people humor him for the most part, but don't really take him seriously. Until a high schooler hires him to solve her boyfriend's murder.
Seriously?
Pretty seriously. He was stabbed 17 times.
From the start, I found this movie to be in similar tone to Brick. This absurd premise feels like it's straight out of an early 2000s indie film, but in all the best ways. The comedic and quirky moments lighten the mood, but don't detract from the difficult truths the once young detective has to face. Adam Brody's Abe is one of the main reasons the movie works. He makes us care about his character and the world he inhabits. A funny but also dark small film that could use some more love. Next up is Christopher Nolan's labyrinthian revenge tale, the very unconventional Memento. Leonard is a man who's trying to find his wife's murderer. Very simple premise, right? Well, the thing is, ever since the attack that resulted in his wife's death, Leonard has sustained brain damage and can't create any new memories. He doesn't remember anything after the attack.
If we talk for too long, I'll forget how we started, and next time I see you, I'm not going to remember this conversation. I don't even know if I've met you before.
In order to help himself cope, he has a system of handwritten notes, Polaroids, and tattoos to help him guide him on his mission. But here's what makes the movie stand out. The narrative isn't linear. The story is told in reverse chronological order. For example, we start with scene 10, then 9, then 8, and so forth. In between those scenes, we have a chronological progression of black and white scenes that are from earlier, in relation to the colored scenes. It's a complex puzzle that represents Leonard's fractured state of mind. It's also a study of the unreliability of human memories and our own perspective. Another unconventional neo-noir with hints of revenge is Nocturnal Animals. Susan is an art gallery owner that is unhappy with her new exhibit, and is beginning to suspect her husband's unfaithfulness. One day, she receives a novel that's written by her ex-husband. As soon as she starts reading it, she's enthralled by the gritty and violent story that for some reason is resurfacing a past guilt.
I didn't have faith in him. I panicked and I did something horrible to him, something unforgivable.
As an audience, we also get to see what she's reading as a story within a story. As the movie goes on, we begin to understand why the novel resonates so much with Susan. Although there are a few very good performances in this movie, the one that stands out a bit more is Jake Gyllenhaal's. He plays both the ex-husband and the main character in the novel. Like in Enemy, he succeeds in setting the characters apart through his actions and delivery. A psychological slow burn thriller.
Excuse me. Will this be on television?
Morning news. If it bleeds, it leads.
What channel?
Whoever pays the most.
If you want to see another neo-noir starring an unhinged Jake Gyllenhaal, I strongly suggest Nightcrawler. He plays Lou Bloom, a sociopathic man looking to make it big in the world of crime journalism by following police sirens and filming footage of accidents or crime scenes and then selling said footage to local TV news stations.
Did you see what happened?
Am I supposed to help move? I didn't see what came after. Am I
Can you tell me exactly what happened?
Will you get the camera out of my face?
His questionable ethics and drive to be the best bring him to be a participant in the videos he wants to sell. This man really sticks to the anti of anti-hero, representing the loner character type of the genre. Gyllenhaal's gaunt appearance mixed with his very expressive and often threatening eyes give us the impression that Lou is moments away from snapping, and we can't look away. Before we move on to our last pick, here are a few great selections from the film club. It's Nicholas Winding Refn's Drive for me. Breathtaking neon-drenched cinematography and a stimulating soundtrack makes it one of the best neo-noirs in recent memory. Dark City. Neo-noir, tech-noir, sci-fi, cosmic horror, and investigative mystery, all rolled up into one. One of my favorite underrated movies. I feel compelled to mention The Chaser because of its similarities to Seven. Both Seven and The Chaser follow men with some tie to law enforcement, be it as a current occupation or one of the past, as they are thrust into the pursuit of killers who operate by killing who they believe to be the lowest common denominator members of society. For John Doe, it's people who exhibit one of the 7 deadly sins. In The Chaser, Our killer targets sex workers. What truly sets Chaser apart, and why I call it the Anti-7, is that the mystery is solved in the first hour of the movie. It eliminates the whodunit portion of your typical noir, so that it can instead dismantle and make some pretty powerful commentaries about the failings of the legal system. While Hong Jing-na may have intended for these subtexts to be specific to South Korea, the Western viewer can see some startling similarities to the faults within our own justice system. Memories of Murder is one of my favorite neo-noirs of all time. 3 perfectly written detective characters who exist on a spectrum from good cop to bad cop. But as the psychological toll of the murders takes its effect on them, they all move across this spectrum and their behavior and livelihoods are forever changed, especially as they all lose something along the way. It's shot and scored in such a classical, evocative fashion that reminds me of the great neo-noirs of the past, and it's damn hilarious too. An all-time great. I'd say that my favorite film to represent the genre though has to be Gone Baby Gone. It has everything you could want in a neo-noir. The reluctant hero who has his foot in the door and some sway in the world, but is not fully ingrained in it. The mystery that keeps ratcheting up higher and higher. The feeling of helplessness over the systems at play once things start bursting at the seams. However, the difference is how our hero becomes a victim of these systems. The ending gets me so conflicted every time in a way that no other film does. It may not be as stylish as some others, but the way it immerses you in its world and makes you question what you think is right is peak neo-noir.
You're like me.
The last movie on our list starts off bright and welcoming, before digging deep into a surreal and sometimes confusing world. Blue Velvet. Jeff Beaumont returns to his hometown to help out at his father's hardware store because he's been hospitalized. One day, he finds a severed human ear, and after reporting it to a police detective, he and the detective's daughter begin to investigate on their own. Jeff very soon finds himself in way over his head.
I'm involved in a mystery. I'm in the middle of a mystery, and it's all secret.
I won't go into more detail, but if you haven't watched it, I'll caution you about certain elements. First off, this movie is not for everyone. This is a David Lynch film. Although this might be one of his more approachable films, be ready for the weird factor to climb exponentially. The patterns, metaphors, and motifs have a purpose. This is the type of movie that stays with you and makes you think. Blue Velvet explores the primal depravity and darkness that is hidden behind a seemingly perfect or idyllic facade. And so, we've reached the end, but we are not done yet. Make sure to let us know what your favorite neo-noir film quotes are down in the comment section, and we will rank and discuss them in the community video next week. And remember, your comments may be featured. Please don't forget to like, share with a friend, and subscribe. See you next week at the Film Club.